Welcome to your Barksdale virtual experience with your directions for your outline and your paragraph. I'm going to walk you through how to complete your outline and completed paragraph, and just note that it is due by tomorrow, Saturday, by 11:59 because I will grade on Sunday. If it is not completed, I will grade whatever you get done unless you are absent, and then we will talk separately. Remember, for this activity, you are examining Athens and Sparta. You're going to be using the evidence that we gathered for the last couple days from the movie clip, the textbook, and the class notes that we did together. And you're going to write a comparison piece that will look at which city state was more ideal to live. Remember, no wishy washy. You need to choose one city state over the other, and your entire paragraph should follow that trend. I understand that there are pros and cons to both city states. I did that on purpose. Now, I want you to take the evidence that you have and think about how to take a side on that particular evidence. You're going to make sure that your paragraph covers each category. First, political, dealing with the government structures, then social, which can deal with class, the way they were treated women, or the education, and finally, military. If you decide to cover education as part of your social, be careful because the Spartan military was also the Spartan education system. So just think about that as if you decide that's going to be your focus. So the first thing you're going to do is develop your outline, and then you're going to then take once your thoughts are organized, you're going to turn it into a well-developed paragraph. I'm going to walk you through that, but I just want to draw your attention to the directions below, a checklist of what you need to do, reference to the social studies rubrics, and finally your competency grades in relation to how you need to complete the activity. All right, I'm just going to change that because we omitted the bibliography. So 20 points in each comp. Question: which was a more ideal city state, Athens or Sparta? In this case, you are actually going to do a comparative writing piece. So you will actually have facts from both city states, and then your analysis will explain why one fact is better than the other. So what does that mean? Let's go to the next page. You're going to notice if you scroll down in the directions, it says to start outline and paragraph on next pages. I actually have a structure of the outline. Yours will be blank. Mine is filled in so that I can talk you through instruction, but yours will be blank, and then you'll fill it in accordingly. You then will take your outline and don't delete it, but copy and paste it onto the next page down and reformat it into a well-developed paragraph that is double-spaced, Times New Roman, 12-point, indented once, in-text citation, and has transitional words and phrases. I would encourage you have one of your peers read it over before you turn it in. All right, so let's talk about how to do this. The first thing you need to do is develop your thesis statement. Remember, your thesis is a restatement of the question. So in this case, if you decide that Athens was a more ideal city-state than Sparta, that's your thesis. If you switch it, just take the word Sparta and switch it with Athens. So either Athens was a more ideal city-state or Sparta was. And you'll notice that I actually have put both city-states in. So when I do my specs, I need to make sure I do both specs for both groups. Okay? I don't care what side you take, but whatever side you take is the side that I should see all throughout. So I actually did an example of how to set up your A statement in regards to the first category, which is political. B will be social and C will be based around the military. Make sure each one covers a different category. If you do all political, you're not going to pass the assignment. And this is one of those practice assignments getting ready for Pericles. So what I did was here's my thesis. This is a long overarching thesis. So now remember, the intention of my A is that I'm narrowing my focus to my first category. So I'm not just going to say politics. I'm going to make sure it's a sentence that shows comparison. So because my thesis says Athens was better, please don't think that's the side you have to take. You can take the Sparta side. My example is not meant this is the way to get an A. This is meant to show you what to do. You would say, I decided to compare the Council of 500 to the Council of Elders. So my A statement narrows in. The Council of 500 in Athens was a better political structure than the Council of Elders in Sparta. Notice the words political structure. So that's telling my reader that I'm going to be talking about government. I also have named the group I'm going to talk about and where they're located, but that's it. Not any more information. This is a vague opinion. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to give my evidence, and then my analysis will explain how it was better. Okay? So now here's how it's going to work. If you said Sparta was better, then it would be Sparta specs and then Athens specs. Because I said Athens was better, I'm going to put my Athenian specs first, then my Spartan specs. Each specific example should have a in-text citation from where you got it from. Movie clip, Barksdale lecture notes, or the text page number. All right. So what I would do here is my Athenian fact, I would write a detailed, unbiased a piece of evidence about the Athenian Council of 500. Nothing about Sparta. I would simply just put what is the Council of 500? What was their power? What would be the piece of evidence that stuck out to you that proved that they're a better government source? Now, if I were to flip it and I said Sparta's better, what about the Council of 500 stood out to you that proves that they're a better group? Okay. Then I would follow with another specs. You're doing two of them. I would put the comparison specs. That the one that is not ideal goes second. So if I said Sparta was better, Athens would go second. But because I said Athens was more ideal, Sparta goes second. Okay. And this is where I would write a detailed fact about the Council of 500, unbiased piece of evidence that just says, here's the Council of Elders. Okay. I've noticed I put the assembly. This should be the Council of 500. Sorry. So with that idea, I have these two specific examples. They don't have to make sense with each other. They just need to detail both groups. I'm telling the reader, these are the powers of this group. Then where you get to put the comparison in is in your analysis. Your analysis statement, and feel free to use my model, the Athenian Council of 500 was a more ideal political structure than the Spartan Council of Elders because why? This is where I think about my specific examples that I discussed, and I explain to the reader, based on these facts that I have, this is why Athens is better than Sparta. Okay, remember, you're not going to put because I think. This should come from your brain. It's not based on anything you're going to find in your notes, but why was Athens Council of 500 better than Sparta? Or if I reversed it, why was Sparta's Council of Elders better than Athenian Council of 500? You don't have to do these groups. You can analyze any political structure you want. You could look at the strategos and the king. You could look at the ecclesia. You could look at the ephors. Like, you decide what two you want to talk about. But what I'm trying to get you to focus in on is that you need to talk about the two political structures and choose a part of it. You cannot cover everything. Okay? So really think about the ones that stood out to you. From there, then you will go on to do your social. Women's rights in Sparta were much better than women's rights in Athens, or the Athenian social class structure was better than the Spartan social class structure. And then I would define the social class structure as my Athens specs and then my Sparta specs. Okay. So make sure this is going to add a little twist to what we've been doing in class. You're doing two specs because you're doing what is a comparative writing piece. And when you do your analysis statement, you need to make sure you create a sentence that compares the two sides. So I'll say it again. Thesis, restate, use my thesis, just change it out depending on what side you take. A statement should introduce the groups you're going to talk about and why it's a better political, the word social or the word military should be somewhere in the sentence. And then each spec should clearly write a detailed, specific example about whatever the topic is you're talking about. So in this case, mine would be about the Council of 500 and then the Council of Elders. Whichever came first in your thesis should be the first specs that you do. Whichever came second should be the second specs. And finally, your analysis should say, and feel free to use my model, this was better than this because why? Okay. And notice the word political again. I'm really driving home the point to my reader that I'm talking politics. When I do my social one, I should say social. When I do my military one, I should do my military one. And then finally, for your closing, don't forget your closing sentence should be a restatement of your thesis idea, not a copy and paste of your thesis. So be careful. You want to think about creating a synonym for the word ideal, maybe putting a word about closing like in summation, in conclusion, overall, and that would bring it to a close. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. All the best of luck, and I hope this goes well for you.